What if the version of you've been chasing is actually the one you've been trying to return to all along? The one before the noise, before the burnout, before you started shrinking to fit a life that never really fit you. This isn't about starting over, it's about returning. Returning to your soul, returning to your truth, the version of you that has always been meant to be. Each week, we're going to offer up real stories, hard earned wisdom, and practical tools from powerful returns to help you reconnect with who you are and why you're here. I'm your host, Bryan White, and this is The Return Project. Welcome back to another episode of The Return Project. I'm your host, Bryan White, and today we have the great pleasure to sit down with Lara. She's here to share a story of growth and moving through life from a space of burnout, traveling through a messy divorce, realizing that life needed to be lived in more of an authentic form, finding her inner self and walking through that journey of healing. And in that space, like many of us, she discovered new ways to live, new tools, how to return to her inner self. So, Laura, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Brian.
Laura, I would love for us to just dive right into this conversation and get to know where you started from. What sent you on this healing journey?
I'm a mom, I'm an intuitive, and I'm a coach. And I have gone through the biggest part of my healing journey was in 2020. I went through a divorce in the middle of the pandemic with my 1-year-old daughter. And in the unraveling of my marriage, there was a lead up towards that. Obviously, I left a corporate career. I decided to do my own business. Then I got pregnant, and then the pandemic happened, and then the divorce happened. And then I was sort of just standing there in July of 2020 being like, oh my gosh, what is going on? And so through the unraveling of my marriage and in the pandemic, when we all had a lot more time on our hands, because for myself, I wasn't able to go out and do the normal work that I was doing beforehand with all the social distancing limitations. And I realized that I, at that point, have been co-creating my own reality, meaning that my marriage didn't just unravel because of different events. It also unraveled because I allowed it to head that way. I created everything. And once again, it wasn't just I co-created the tower moment that I went through, but in that process and having my daughter, one of the biggest reflective things is when I when I had my daughter, I literally saw myself in my daughter. And one of my biggest journeys in leaving my marriage was truly internalizing what it meant to be loved the way I wanted to be loved. And I did not want my daughter to have to go through the giant healing process and unraveling that I'm going through. And when we started to, I guess, deconstruct my marriage and understanding all of that, one of the biggest things through that, I realized that there was so many different pillars that in my life that were all out of whack because of my own self-worth, self-values, and my own limiting beliefs. So it's like, it wasn't just the unraveling of my marriage. It was like, okay, the recalibration of my business. Oh my gosh, childhood trauma. Okay, my awareness and beliefs surrounding love and relationships all stem from my parents and my DNA patterning and all of the above. So it was like the band-aids that like ripped off, or the blinders that ripped off, like completely shone light on all my shadows in like every single area of my life. So it wasn't just my romantic relationship that was now dissolving and changing. It was like everything, like my relationship with my family and my sisters all went upside down. I mean, the pandemic really exposed a lot of people to their own fears and how individuals, humans, process those fears and react to those fears. So, I was sort of thrown into the land of unknown. And the only way through that was for me to take radical accountability of my own life, which has been a journey to do all on its own. But
Powerful. I would love for us to start at the beginning of some of that, where You found yourself in the space of life change. As you talked about, we sat through the pandemic, which radically changed many people's lives. You went through a divorce, all these things, and your world was shifting and crumbling and changing around you. How did you manage to not just, as many people would say, wallow in that darkness? How did you uplift yourself out of that and not let all of that change, I guess, destroy you?
Probably my daughter. Like, like when you have a tiny human looking at you and you're trying to set an example of moving forward, like the number one job as a parent is to lead. That is not only to make sure that the child doesn't die, but, like, the number one thing for a parent is to do is to lead. And the best way that a parent can do that is lead by example. You want a good kid, you have to lead by your own moral, ethical, truth and integrity standards moving forward, right? So I don't know if it's like a mom thing. I don't know if it's a me thing, but like when you have a child, you can't really afford to not get your shit together. Like you can't really afford to stay in a victim mindset. Like at that time, I already made the decision to I created a business in 2018, really launched it in the fall of 2019, 3 months after she was born. And so in this time, it's like, okay, well, I decided to become an entrepreneur. I decided to do all those things. I don't really have the luxury to not keep on moving, not keep on moving forward, to stay in victim. Like you don't really have that luxury. And so truly it would have been a lot different if I wasn't a new parent in that moment, because I had someone else that I was directly responsible for, and someone that I knew would eventually, I was that model for the life that they could choose to live.
Let's talk about you're starting a new business, you're a new mom. Did you ever find yourself in a point asking yourself, what the heck am I doing? How did you not fall back into comfort? Because it'd be very easy in a point like that to all those stressors, life changing, to fall back and just go get a regular job.
One of the biggest things in healing is choosing you over and over and over again, even when it's tricky. And I have always been an entrepreneur. From when I was a kid, I had a lemonade stand, like many entrepreneurs say. I had a lemonade stand. I stole all the freezies out of my parents' refrigerator when I was 4.5 and asked my 7-year-old neighbor boyfriend to walk me over to the local beach and sell freezies. Like I've always been that entrepreneur mindset, like I got a job really early as a referee, and then I was babysitting. Like I was always in the creative building a business type of mode. Like that's part of my cellular makeup probably. And I really, moving forward, I really needed to continue pushing through. Like it wasn't really an option.
With all of these changes happening in life and you've had your new daughter, you're opening up all these old wounds, and you kind of talked about there was some childhood trauma in there. What was some of the pieces that you really had to work through? What were some of your biggest struggles? Did you have to really make a shift in your beliefs and your values and kind of figure out what those really meant to you?
So going back to the question that I didn't really answer before, but the choosing you. But in the healing process, you get to choose what you want. So do I want to be creative and have my own hours and make sure that everything that I'm creating is mine at the end of the day? That's a choice. It's a choice to then go to another employer. Yes, that is to some people an easier choice. And some people, that's the responsible choice. But leaving my previous corporate job, I had a whole year of miscarriages. I was in sales and I was 100% commission sales, and I was having miscarriage after miscarriage after miscarriage, and I was working 80 plus hours, and I had, the money was great, but I had no life. I had no friends. I had no time to do anything like that. And so when I think about, well, what next career I would want to do, there's nothing even that I could slot myself into that really got me excited. Like there was nothing that really I wanted to do. And so as I moved forward, it was like, okay, right, I have the opportunity in childhood trauma when you realize you've always just accepted what was given to you, or you said, okay, well, that's great for that person, but I don't think that could be my reality. I've always been a dreamer. I've always had visions. I've always thought of, like the impossible possible. And my experiences so far in my life have solidified and grounded and validated that those things are possible. Like that is possible. If you have a vision of it, it's possible. You can't actually imagine anything that your cells don't already know, that you don't already resonate with, right? So manifestation is a feeling. It's not actual the tangible objects. It's the feeling of what that feels like, that what that freedom feels like, what that love feels like, what that abundance feels like. That's a feeling. So you can recognize those manifestations. It's not a type of brand of car, even though that's great and that comes, when things actually manifest and when things actually get co-created, it's actually a feeling. Joy is a feeling, abundance is a feeling, all of that is a feeling. There was no option not to create that for myself. But in the grand scheme of things, going back to why was I in that marriage? What about myself thought that that's what love looked like? Why did I think that you have to compromise in relationships? Why do you have to compromise yourself, your happiness, your worth, your values, your morals, your ethics? You don't need to compromise anything on in a relationship. Like that is the programming that we've been sold and bought into. And when I say it's not just, I wasn't just healing what I wanted in a healthy relationship. I was healing body image. I was healing social conditioning. I was healing performance. Like I was healing, like I realized, and all these things, when I say childhood trauma, these are all things that you're taught the second that you learn how to walk. Like the second that you learn how to walk and your parents are praising you for taking your first steps, you're already performing and realizing that makes mommy or daddy happy. So I'm going to continue to do things to get to them. You automatically get rewarded for good behavior. And so we're automatically conditioned to perform to be loved. And so when I ripped off my band-aids and my blinders of my lack of self-worth and self-value and self-love and all the selves, there's like a million pillars of those foundations. That's when I started having to dive deep and understand the root of where I got those beliefs in the first place. And everything results back to your childhood, everything. So it's not just childhood trauma. Like, yes, I experienced trauma as a child, and trauma is how you perceive those moments, right? So something to one parent could be like, oh, that was hilarious. And I was like, actually, that was the most traumatic moment of my entire life. Like, so it's, trauma is a perception with how the individual internalizes it. But at the same time too, everything, when I was unraveling every single pillar, it all related to, okay, well, where did that belief come from? Did it come from when I was 8? Did it come from when I was 5? Did it come from when I was 4? Did it come from when I was 16? Like, you sort of peel back the layers. One of the tools that I use a lot with my clients is like, okay, like close your eyes, go back as far as you can go. If you can only get back to 18, get back to 18. If you don't only get back to 21, get back to 21, and then take that a step further. So once again, it's like, okay, if you can only get to 16 right now, then that's fine. But I know that there's a memory before that 16 experience that's been ingrained on you. So that's how you like received it at that age.
Let's break down what you were talking about, choosing yourself first. You were explaining that by choosing ourselves first is essentially how we dive in and start more of a healing process. I would love for you to explain to our audience kind of what you define is choosing you first.
Being selfish. We're conditioned as a society to serve everyone else before serving ourselves. And that's backwards, because just like on a plane, you need to put on your oxygen mask first before you help anyone else. And so when I say choosing yourself first, when there's a decision, if someone invites you out to a barbecue, do you say that align with the vision that I hold for myself, or does it obstruct my internal peace? Like, so in that moment, you have to honor yourself in every moment. You know, what do you feel like for dinner? Oh, well, we only have this, and this in the fridge. Okay, well, what does that feel like for you? Do you want something warm? Do you want something, savory? Do you want, like, so we're so conditioned to please or not ruffle to make other people comfortable and happy. And so then we abandon ourselves because we are so busy trying to please and appease everyone else.
So I guess where that leads me into is wanting to know, how does someone break into that or out of that? As we talked about, there's the conditioning to all those factors. There's our trauma, there's what we've been brought up on, our beliefs that have been ingrained into us, and what we've created as our bubble of comfort. Most of us are living in this space of perpetual comfort. We're not happy, and we're not being fulfilled, and we're not choosing ourselves first at all, but we're comfortable. And it's scary. Like, the old me would have been petrified of getting out of that comfort bubble if it hadn't been for my personal growth journey and being kind of like you, an entrepreneur who chases that bit of fear. But for most people, how do we get past that big, scary comfort bubble that's holding us in place?
It's honestly a choice. And when I say it's a choice, it's like you have to inner stand so deeply that it's more detrimental for you to stay than it is for you to move forward. And, we always say it's like, okay, well, things happen for reasons, seasons, and all that kind of stuff. But the universe comes in and shakes up your life and makes you so uncomfortable to force you to move forward. Like, a lot of times, if you see how things unravel, it's like, okay, it's a choice to move forward. It's like, okay, the universe has offered you a gift. It's like, your car, like, anything from like your car not working, and you've been saying, I need to get rid of this car, I need to get rid of this car, and then your car just like, clunks out, and you're just like, oh my gosh, like, now I'm forced to move, like, now I'm forced to take action. It's truly a choice. I could choose to stay in an unhappy relationship. I could stay to do status quo. I could stay in a job that I'm selling my soul to, or I could create something that aligns. So it is truly, it's sort of just even as simple as losing weight to some people. It's like they just get so unhappy that they have to make a change. They get so unhappy that they need to do something different, whether it's even how they hold themselves in their body image, or whether it's cleaner eating. Whatever the case is, you get to a point that you are given a choice to either you co-create your reality. You want a more abundant life? Go create it. You want more love in your life? Unravel to figure out why that hasn't come in for you yet, or why you don't love yourself to the frequency or level that love is coming in. Like, everything comes down to a simple, you get to choose differently, and then you have to be impeccable in that choice, i.e., you want to be calmer parenting, you have to figure out how to regulate your nervous system. You want to build a business in alignment and not hustling like they've constructed us to do, then it's a choice to figure out, well, what does alignment mean? How do you not do that? For me, it's like, how do I grow a business in my feminine energy and not the masculine hustle of, corporate North America? So it's like, how do you do those things? And it's like, okay, in one action step, you make a choice that's different, and then everything else moves forward. But it's not easy. Like, when people say healing, I'm doing reflective work, I'm healing, like, the healing journey is a hard journey. and it's an ugly journey. It's a beautiful journey. It's pretty much every single word you could use to describe the journey. Like, it is not easy. It is not easy to take accountability of your own life, of yourself,
Oh,
of what you
it's
want for
really not.
yourself. And so most people fail at the basic level of taking accountability. Most people would rather, it's easier to stay in a victim mindset than it is to take radical accountability and say, no, I know that something else is different. I have to continue to choose that. So it's truly, there's no secret formula. It's truly just a choice. It's a choice to continue to move forward. It's a choice to believe that life happens for you, not to you. It's a choice to believe that everything is for your highest good, even though you don't have to like it, right? Like, we are truly here living out the curriculum that the universe, divine, whatever you believe in, has already put out for us moving forward. We are just doing the lesson plans that we have to do in this life for our soul's journey. So, what I need to experience in this lifetime, some people never have to experience. There's people that they've been together since they were in high school and they're high school sweethearts. And I'm so happy that they have that type of love. That's not part of my plan, right? Like, they must have gone through lifetimes of loneliness and heartache, and they finally found that's whatever their purpose is within themselves, that they're able to have that. My story is different. I have to process codependency and abandonment and like all those types of things, right? So once again, it's all relevant to what you need to learn and where you need to grow. And that is a direct reflection of our parents, our ancestors, our cousins, our lineage, like all of the above, right? And we're all sort of woven differently, but it's truly just a choice at the end of the day.
Feel like this is going to tie into that really well there, that you're making these choices and you're doing all the right things and you're trying to live in your best alignment and you're trying to go forward, but life keeps kicking the snot out of you and barriers keep showing up in front of you and it seems like the universe is against you. How do you not fall into that mindset and give up? You're doing all the right things, but life just keeps putting barrier after challenge in front of you. What do you do?
It's when healing is truly sacred. And what I mean by that is you have to build up your own knowing that you haven't been abandoned by the universe. And what I mean by that is you have to you get to a point, and this is something that I do on a day-to-day basis. This doesn't come easy, but it's one of those things that you have to trust. It's, having trust and having faith that there is a version of life that you could attain. So it's like, I know that I'm always held. That's like one of my foundational lines that I tell myself. It's, or like, well, life happens for me, not to me, but also that I'm always held. Now, that could come in so many different ways that, like, so, when I say you could be held by the relationships that you have in your life. You could be held because you've received opportunities that you didn't even think were possible. And you have to go back into your life, Rolodex, and actually say, right, I was held in this moment and this is why. I was held in this moment and this is why. I didn't think this was possible and this is what happened. From the simplest things to like, oh God, I want a really good steak. Like, I want a good 1.5-inch steak, and I go to the grocery store and they have like beautiful T-bone steaks on sale. And it's like, right, okay, I'm held in this moment because this is what I really wanted. And because of life, a lot of people are cutting the steaks even thinner to push the dollar, all that kind of stuff. So it's like, in those moments, I really wish that, so you just continue to hold and trust that you're held, but it's truly a choice. And it's truly, if you are following your path and you're doing everything that you can do to return to self, and you're doing everything to return to the brilliance of who you are, your light that you are, if you're doing everything that you can to get back to that person, to return to that person, to reclaim that reclamation of who you are, then the universe will serve you. It's not going to go unnoticed. You're always held. And even in moments that you would wish things to look differently, in moments that you're like, okay, right, like I'm doing all of this and here I am, I'm still struggling financially, or I still need to reach out for additional support, or this hasn't taken off yet, or this or that. There's a reason for that. And you don't need to understand what that reason is just yet, but you have to hold that there is a reason. And that will be uncovered and discovered over time, but you hold. And when I say hold, it's not, when you can't hold for those manifestations to come in, you have to just start living and knowing, that it's going to come. But it is truly trusting. It's trusting that, right, if I am doing all this in alignment and I have done the healing work and I continue to intuitively follow every single door that has been open to me, every single opportunity that has been given to me. I've walked through everything. Then you sit with yourself and say, have I truly done everything that I can in this moment? Have I truly done or taken into consideration all of the different options? And most likely, if you are in alignment, you have done everything that feels right, right? Not what feels uncomfortable, because it's uncomfortable to be vulnerable. It's uncomfortable to put yourself out. Like, those things aren't easy, but there's a calling. Like, it's truly getting out of your head and back into your body. It's getting over the fear and figuring out how to move forward. Like, one of the biggest things through anything that I've done, whether it's parenting, whether it's coaching, whether it's entrepreneurship, all of the kind of stuff, one of the biggest threads through all of it is calming your nervous system. And I think so many of us with programming have been so deeply conditioned in fear, and it's the fear, it's the ego, it's the fear that keeps us stalled. It's the fear that keeps us from moving forward. It's the fear that, that's when self-doubt creeps in. And so one of the biggest things is dismantling all those fears to allow yourself the opportunity to trust and hold space for that to happen. So it's figuring out all those fears that make you think that things aren't possible, that things aren't in your favor, that, and then we're human. Allow yourself to be in victim mode. But the key is, through healing work, you're able then to get to the out of victim mode even faster. So, like sometimes people could wallow in their sadness or, for like a week. And then you get to the point that you're like, okay, then you're stuck in it for 72 hours. And then you're stuck in it for 24 hours. You're having a bad day. And the key is to pivot it almost instantly. Give yourself 30 minutes, all that kind of stuff. But the key is, if you've done the healing work, you're going to be able to shift out of that victim mentality into knowing that it's happening for you pretty much instantly. And if you can't, you have to ask yourself, what is this still showing me? Where are the fears that still think that this isn't possible for me? Instead of, being a victim and sitting there and saying, boo-hoo, this has happened to me again, like, another one to hold me back. Well, everything's happening for you. So what is this experience about? And then you just go, oh, interesting. I'm so curious to know what's coming, or I'm so curious to know what that means, or, so once again, I'm not saying to be fakely optimistic, because life sometimes puts you on your ass. Like sometimes things like, tower moments aren't easy to navigate. Miscarriages, death, all that kind of stuff is not easy to navigate. There's some serious things that we go through, very traumatic things for many of us, but it is truly a choice to say, right, for whatever reason, I'm supposed to be experiencing this right now, and I'm going to move forward. I don't need to understand why, because sitting in it doesn't continue moving forward, right? It's just like, if you stop paddling your boat, you're going to go nowhere, and you're just, surrendering to the fact that there's wind or the tide takes you in the right direction, right? Like, you still need to co-create what that looks like moving forward. So you still need to take action. You can't take no action and just hope that everything just miraculously like manifests in front of you. Like you have to take aligned action through the process. But it is truly holding that trust. And then if you can't hold that trust because all those fears rush in, it's starting to rewire, reprogram, and dismantling those fears. Because fears are scary, but the end result is scarier of you living a lie and not being yourself. Like that is the scarier thing. It's like, okay, well, I could choose to fake it and just have a really unfulfilled life that I feel trapped in, or I could continue to work my way out of my trench.
I think that you summed it up really well, but tell me if I got this right. You've used the word co-create, and it left me curious to know what was the difference between co-create and create. And I think I was hearing you say that by co-creating means that you're taking action and being radically responsible for some of it. As you just said, if you stop rowing your boat with your paddle and give up to the wind, that's A, a choice, and B, you're not being present or participating in it. So to co-create, you're basically saying you need to be present and still putting in the action to have some direction.
Yeah. So like and I mean it's like with anything. It's like, okay, I could, even when I think about my subscribers and what I email them on a weekly basis, like what do I feel like, touching base on, or what's in alignment this week? I know that there needs to be engagement. You know what I mean? Like I know that there needs to be engagement, but how does that engagement feel like? How does it feel like in alignment? What do I feel like doing in my free time? Do I feel like doing more readings? Do I feel like doing more coaching? And then from there, it's like, no, no, no. Like I think coaching is what I would love to do this weekend. So that's what I'm going to put out. That's what I'm going to, plant a seed with. Or sometimes I'm just going through my own stuff emotionally or energetically or whatever's going on. And I was just like, I don't want to offer them anything, but I know that I need to reach out because you can't just ghost, those your subscribers. And I was just like, okay, well, I'm going to reach out with a message because I needed to hear that this week, and this is really what's I've like been channeling through all my clients or my work this week. So I'm going to share a little bit about my story and what's going on, and hope that it reaches who it needs to reach. And so once again, you're always taking aligned action because once again, there needs to be action. You need to co-create it. But when you're doing it from alignment, then you're moving through things organically without the forced hustle and everything that's attached to it. So you still need to co-create. You co-create your reality. You know what I mean? Like you want a good meal, you have to love being in the kitchen. If you're throwing things together and roughly chopping and you don't care if it turns out nice, it's going to taste bad. But when something's made of love, you could taste love. We always go to restaurants and you're like, oh, you can tell when the chef is still in it and when the chef really doesn't care about the work, because you could taste it in the food. You could taste love. You can taste intention. You can taste alignment. You know what I mean? You can taste all of that. So once again, it's about okay, right, I've been given this opportunity. I'm going to walk through this door. So you have to
I want to
you
highlight I
you
got to
have to
jump
take
in
that
here and
action.
highlight something.
Yeah.
You were talking about that you can taste love. I love how you put that in there because whether it is in our food, in our relationships, in ourself, it is such a physical feeling. And we can talk about it in the mental sense all we want, but I loved how you were describing that you can taste love. I think it's really cool just to bring it to that really physical human sense.
And that's, it's really interesting because the biggest issue that many of us face through our healing journey is that we've been so detached from our actual feelings. Like many of us, when I say going back to manifesting, what does abundance feel like? What does love taste like? What does, our animals go outside and look around and sense the air before they feel safe to walk through? And us, we just barge through life and hope we don't get hurt. So it's like, we've lost our animalistic, our primal senses. And when you return to alignment, it's pretty much returning your senses. It's turning back on your senses. What love feels like, what love tastes like, what well, really anything, like even your body, your sleep, everything, it goes back to a feeling as opposed to the emotional reaction. So it's such a powerful thing in nervous system work and your own healing. You're like, okay, like where do I still feel this? Like your body talks, like, like, I mean, healing's a whole other podcast and a whole other conversation, but like, you know what I mean? Like when you actually start like attuning back to your body, you're like, okay, like does that person give me butterflies or do I feel like my nervous system is calm? Right? Like, so like you could go into feelings and actually rewiring what your brain senses for so many different things. But no, but food is one thing that it's something that we've always really recognized that when it's done with love and not performance, it's just delicious. You can taste the love. That's what makes you want to go back. You know what I mean? So no, and even if you go to someone's house, like, if someone's even cooking, the pies that we grew up with as kids, and I'm just using that, but like my granny made a raspberry pie and she loved that raspberry pie. She loved her old stove. She loved raspberry pies, and we had a farm and it was fresh raspberries, and it was the best. And that's when, Crisco and lard was still lard and all that kind of stuff, but you could taste the love in my granny's pies, and you could taste the home cooked meals that we love. If you were around women or men that could cook, were those memories, is because they made them with love. That's why it stuck with you. That's why your body received it that way. But yeah, food is a good indicator of that.
Let's return back to your story here a little bit. You've now walked through these seasons of challenges and you've done the personal growth journey and you've embarked upon healing and learning. Where has it taken you in your life? You moved into your coaching and you've talked a bit about being an intuitive healer. Where has that opened the doors and where is that taking you in life now?
Now I'm truly living in alignment. Some days are rougher than others, but most days I'm living in alignment. So for me, it means that I've created a business and I am still actively always growing businesses. There's always different things I want to be involved with and create, and all that kind of stuff. But I have the freedom and the space to parent the way I want to parent. New level of self-worth and self-love for myself that I didn't even know existed or was possible. My business, I continue to align with beautiful souls that there's a resonance effect and we are on the same frequency for so many different things. So that's always such a beautiful, and I'm very blessed to have those experiences and to, meet the people that I meet. So I've come to a place through all of this of living with a lot more peace and within alignment. There's very few things that still trigger me. There's fears, but those fears can be unraveled really, really fast. I mean, like healing is a lifelong journey. It's like an onion. You go through layers. But like, as you move forward, like I'm so much lighter as an individual, and I'm so much more comfortable in my own skin because I'm finally rediscovering who Lara is. Like that has, it's not like I've come back to this person, reclaimed this person, because I was never really there. Like I'm back to the 3-year-old that was twirling and a lover of nature and bugs and all that kind of stuff. So I've reclaimed the person that I came into this world to continue to be, and I've now unraveled decades of insanity that I internalized as just life, but now I've unraveled and have unveiled those things, and I'm finally reclaiming the person that I am pretty sure I was destined to be, because I feel like I'm in alignment in those areas.
From where you're sitting today and what you've taken in, the lessons, the state of mind that you have now, and the space that you're living in, if you could go back to your pre-journey self, what is the greatest piece of advice that you would tell yourself?
Know if you can go back. And when I say that is life happens organically. Like you can't rush your healing journey. And even though I would go back and shake younger Lara, being like, find your self-worth. Why don't you love yourself? Why are you doing this? I would do those things, but at the same time, life needs to unfurl as it should. You know what I mean? There's no regret in me whatsoever. There's some cringy moments, not going to lie, but there's no regret in any of it because you had to experience those things. Some people need to be in a relationship for 35 years to realize they're unhappy. I learned it in 10. Some people learn it in 1. Once again, I can't go back and change anything or hope for a different outcome because all of those experiences have made me the person that I am today. All of those experiences gave me the meat to unravel in my healing journey. I can't really go back. I mean, once again, I wish I could go back and love on the younger version of myself. But once again, even that, it's like, well, how far back do you go? Like, I have a beautiful daughter. I would have never met her if I wasn't so traumatized and trauma bonded to her father. And, we had a 10-year relationship. And so it wasn't, there was a marriage, there was a relationship, there was different countries, there was a whirlwind. And I wouldn't change any of that because then it's brought me her and she wouldn't exist if that didn't happen. So there's nothing that I would go back and change, but I would go back and love on myself more. But I don't think that would even change the outcomes. I was so stubborn and stuck in my ways that I was like a bull in a china shop, just plowing my way forward. So,
I know that feeling.
and once again, going back to accountability, I just plowed forward. I faked it till I made it. I was headstrong. I was all of the above, right? So for me, it's like I don't think I could go back and change anything. I'd go back and love on myself more. But once again, I wouldn't even want the superpower to be able to go back and do that kind of thing.
So this seems like a great place to bring our conversation full circle, Lara. And at the end of every one of my podcasts, I like to pose a really powerful question. So the question I throw out to everybody is, what is your true definition of living your best life?
Being at peace would probably be, when I say living my best life, I truly have created the life that I would want for myself, in the sense of I have the freedom to be a parent. I'm able to volunteer at my daughter's school multiple days a week. I'm able to pick her up from school and play with her after that and not be waiting till 5 o'clock. I can pick her up at 2:30. I could do the during the week yoga classes, when everyone's like, oh, well, like what would change? No. Like I've already created the life that I want for myself. Would I want to expand and continue to create and then have, more life luxuries? For sure. But my day to day, like I wake up, I have my coffee, I have a slow morning, I take my dog on a walk, I volunteer, I then take a client, then I have something to eat, I'm able to make sourdough bread and like all those types of things. So it's like I've truly created a life that I love. Now it's just a matter of continuing to push myself to continue to create and share what I'm doing, because I think that is it's so powerful to share what it actually looks like to live the way. Like, it's one thing to speak of what you want for yourself, but it's another thing going back to, I think that one of the very first questions you asked is the biggest thing our job is to do as parents is for me is to lead. Like, you know what I mean? Like, lead the way, live the way, like, just live it. Stop saying you want to do it, just do it. Choose different. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you want pizza on a Wednesday and not just Friday night pizzas? Have pizza on Wednesday and on Friday. Like, just do it. Like, just start living the way. Like, live in peace, live without fear, live, to the fullest. Like, put down the phone. If you're stressed out, figure out how to deal with your stress. Like, live the way, and then start actually, you just living the way and you just living in alignment is enough of a light, is enough of a presence to have impact. And so truly living in alignment and living the life that I have created, it is truly finding that internal peace and not being so wound up and riddled and trapped by fear. We, dismantled those fears and can now live in a peaceful state, or get myself back to that peaceful state and a peaceful mindset.
Laura, this has been an incredible conversation, and I know I've taken huge value from this. I really hope that our listeners have been able to connect and really take away something from this conversation, if anything, to be present and co-create their own lives. So thank you so much for sitting down with us today. This has been a beautiful conversation.
Thank you so much, Bryan, for having me.
That's a wrap on today's episode. A heartfelt thank you to our guests for showing up with honesty, depth, and wisdom. And thank you for listening in. I hope something in this conversation stirred something in you, a memory, a reminder, or maybe even a return to a part of yourself that's been waiting. If you enjoyed this episode, can I ask a quick 30-second favor? Share it with someone you know, someone who might need to hear this message too. And don't forget to explore past episodes. There's so much more waiting for you there. Until next time, I'm your host, Bryan White, and this is The Return Project.